I've got two buckets here. This one Paul bought galvanized, and it's older than I am, and there's not a speck of rust on it. This one I bought new 3 years ago at a big store. And look at the seams, orange already all down the folds. Same shape, same metal near enough. One will outlive my grandchildren, and one's gonna leak by spring. And there's a reason, and it's the same reason for near everything on this list. Here's the twist. Number 7 isn't banned, no matter what the internet tells you. I'll show you where to still buy it. Number 3 will kill a man if it lets go, and the new kind's the dangerous one, not the old. And number 1, you cannot buy new at any price. The last place on earth that made it shut its doors in 1973. 10 more things that used to sit on a shelf in every hardware store in these mountains. What happened to them, and where you can still get the real article. Let's count them down. Number 10, a paintbrush made of hog bristle. Every brush in Paul's shed was animal hair, hog bristle, what they called China bristle. And a good one was worth money, and you cleaned it like you meant to keep it, because you did. Then the paint changed. The old paint was oil, and the new paint is water and plastic. Latex, they call it. And here's the thing nobody tells you. You cannot use a good bristle brush in that water paint. The bristle drinks the water and swells and goes limp as cooked spaghetti, and you've ruined a brush in one afternoon. So the stores went to nylon, the plastic bristle, because it don't care about water. And a whole generation come up never touching the real thing. Now what makes the hog bristle worth anything is the very tip of it. Look close, and each bristle splits into little frayed ends, what they call the flag. And that flag is what holds the paint and lays it down smooth with no brush marks. A plain plastic filament is slick to the tip and can't hold near as much. The big chemical outfit had to go and invent a split-end plastic bristle just to fake what a hog grew for free. Here's the rule, and it's simple. Oil paint, varnish, shellac, a good stain, you want the natural bristle, and it'll lay a finish like glass. Water paint, you want the nylon, and the bristle brush will die in it. Put the wrong one in the wrong paint, and you've thrown money away either way. They're not gone. Purdy still makes them, Worcester still makes them, and any real paint store has them. But you have to know to ask, because the wall of brushes at the big box is nearly all plastic now, and the man stocking it couldn't tell you why you'd want different. I've got a badger and hog varnish brush I've had 30 years. Cleaned right every time, hung bristle down, and it lays a coat of spar varnish on a bow door that you cannot feel a mark in. You could not buy that finish out of a spray can. Number 9, pure neatsfoot oil. There's a bottle on the shelf that says neatsfoot oil, and it's mostly a lie. And it's been a lie so long, most people don't know there was ever a truth. Neatsfoot oil is rendered out of the shin bones and feet of cattle. Neat is just the old word for a cow. You boiled the bones and the feet, skimmed the oil, and it was the thing that kept every piece of leather on the place alive. Harness, boots, the mule's collar, saddle, the straps on everything. What's in the bottle now, most of it says neatsfoot compound, and that word compound is doing a lot of hiding. It means they cut it with petroleum, mineral oil, because that's cheaper than boiling cow bones. And it is not the same. And here's why it matters. That mineral oil seals the leather up like a coat of wax instead of feeding it. So the moisture gets trapped under it and the leather rots from the inside. And worse, over the years, it rots the cotton thread you stitched it with. You all a good harness with the cheap stuff, and you're setting a clock on the seams. Now I'll be square with you because this channel don't oversell. Even the pure oil you go easy with. Slop too much of any neatsfoot on a good piece of leather and you'll over-soften it and darken it and take the life right out of it. A little, worked in warm with your hand, and let it be. More is not better with leather. More is how you ruin a saddle. Pa dressed his harness every winter by the stove, one strap at a time, and that harness outlasted the mule and outlasted the mule after that. The leather that gets babied like that will go 70 years. The leather nobody touches cracks in 10. You can still get the real article. It says 100% pure neatsfoot all, no compound, and it sits right there on the shelf next to the fake for about $1 more. Read the front of the bottle. That's the whole trick. Read the word before compound, and if it says compound, set it back down. Number 8, rope that won't kill you. Every rope on this place when I was a boy was Manila or sisal, natural fiber, off a plant. Manila come from a banana kin over in the Philippines, and it's the strongest natural fiber there is. Sisal's rougher and cheaper, and it's off of agave, and the whole world ran on it. Barns, boats, the hoist rope in the mine. Then nylon come in, and poly, and they're stronger by the pound and they don't rot, and everybody switched. And for a lot of jobs that's fine. But there's one thing about the synthetic rope that has put men in the ground, and most people using it have no idea. Nylon stretches. Pull it hard and it stretches near a quarter of its length, and it stores that up like a drawn bow. And when it lets go, frays through, or a knot slips, it comes back. The people who study it on the ships clock the end of a parted line at up to 500 miles an hour. It'll take your head off. It's quiet right up to the bang, and then it kills somebody standing in the wrong spot. Manila don't do that. Manila stretches hardly at all, so it's got nothing stored up. And better than that, it warns you. A natural rope under too much strain will creak and crackle and pop its fibers one at a time, and you've got a second to get clear. Anybody that's pulled a stump or dragged a log with the two knows the difference in their gut. The old rope groans before it goes. The new rope just goes. I ran hoist rope underground for 31 years, and I trusted natural fiber with my life more times than I can count, because it told you when it was tired. You'd feel it and hear it going long before it broke. So here's where it stands. For tying a tarp, pull a synthetic. It's fine. It's cheaper. It lasts. But for anything with a heavy load and a man anywhere near the line of it, a winch, a tow, a come-along, I want Manila, and I want to stand out of the bite regardless. Real Manila rope is still made and still sold by the rope outfits online, by the foot. It costs more and it's worth it. And never mind that, just never stand where a stretched rope can reach you. Those 4 were beat out by something cheaper or something plastic. The next ones are about keeping the weather off a thing, and the first one lit this house before the power lines ever climbed the ridge. If you want the knowing before it's gone off the shelf for good, subscribe. I put one of these up every few days. Number 7, the good kerosene lamp. Before the power lines come up our holler, and that was later than you'd think, the light in this house was a coal oil lamp, kerosene, and the good one was an Aladdin with a mantle on it. Let me kill the foolishness first, because you'll read it everywhere. Kerosene is not banned. You can buy it today. K1 kerosene right at the farm store, or a pump. What's happened is it left the everyday shelf. It used to be at every hardware and general store because everybody burned it, and now it's a thing you go looking for. And the good lamp parts you order from 2 or 3 specialty outfits that still carry them. Here's what made the Aladdin worth having over a plain lamp. A plain flat wick lamp just burns a yellow flame, and it's dim, you can barely read by it. The Aladdin runs its wick up inside a mantle, a little woven mesh, and that mantle glows white hot, incandescent, and throws a light near as good as a 40-watt bulb. Steady, white, enough to read the paper by. It's the difference between a candle and a lamp you could actually live by. And it wants tending, which is the part that's forgot. You trim that wick dead even and keep it clean, or it'll flare up on one side and smoke and black the chimney in a minute. Turn it too high and it soots. Ma tended the lamps every day of her life. Trimmed the wicks, washed the chimneys in the morning with newspaper, filled them before dark. so you weren't doing it by feel. A lamp was a chore, not a switch. The failure is a lesson too. Let the wick get low and the flame will suck down and gutter. And if you've let the kerosene run near dry, the whole thing can overheat. You kept it filled and you kept it trimmed, and you never walked off from a lit one. And children learned that before they learned to read. You can still buy all of it. The lamps turn up at every estate sale for a song because nobody wants them. The wicks and mantles and chimneys come from the lamp part suppliers online. And today the power's out for a week, and it will be. A person with a filled Aladdin and a jug of K1 is reading in a warm, bright room, while everybody else is holding a phone up like a candle. Number 6, real shellac, mixed from the flake. Shellac's the oldest fine finish there is. And here's a thing that'll surprise you. It comes out of a bug. A little insect over in India and Thailand feeds on the tree sap and gives off a resin. And they scrape it off the branches and refine it into flakes. And you melt those flakes in alcohol and you've got shellac. Every good piece of furniture for a couple hundred years was finished in it. Then polyurethane come along, the plastic in a can, tougher and waterproof, and shellac got shoved to the back. And most people who do reach for shellac now buy it pre-mixed in a can, and that's where they get burned, because pre-mixed shellac goes bad. Here's the trouble, and I only half follow the chemistry, so I'll tell it plain. Once those flakes are dissolved in the alcohol, a slow reaction starts working, and past a certain point, the shellac just won't dry anymore. You brush it on, and it stays tacky, sticky, for days, forever, never hardens. The can carries a date on the bottom for exactly this reason. An old shellac out of a can that sat 2 years on a shelf will ruin a tabletop because it will not set up. The old-timers never had that trouble because they kept the flakes dry, flakes keep for years, and mixed up only what they'd use in a week or two. Fresh mixed shellac dries hard in 20 minutes, and you can build a finish in an afternoon. That's the knowing that got lost, not the shellac, the mixing. And it's a wonderful thing to work. It dries fast, it burns in on itself so there's no lap marks, a scratch rubs right out, and it's about the only finish safe enough they use it to coat candy and pills. The failure is the tacky can, and the fix is the flake and a jar of alcohol. Paul shellacked every stick of furniture he ever built, mixed in a mason jar, and I've got a corner cupboard of his that a damp glass will still ring white. That's shellac's one weakness, water. But a wipe of alcohol and a fresh pad and it comes right back. You cannot fix a polyurethane finish. You can only sand it off. Shellac, you just heal. De-waxed shellac flakes are sold by the woodworking suppliers online. Amber and blonde and garnet. And a bag keeps for years in a cool cupboard. That's the finishes and the light. These last 4 are the heavy things. What they made buildings and chains and roofs out of. Back when a thing was built to outlast the man who built it. Number 5, hot-dipped galvanized, not the sprayed-on kind. Back to my 2 buckets. Both are zinc-coated over steel, galvanized, and zinc's the trick because zinc rusts before the steel does and protects it, sacrifices itself. So why is one rusted and one not after the same rain? Thickness. Paul's bucket was hot-dipped. They dunked the whole thing in a kettle of molten zinc, and it come out with a thick coat actually bonded into the steel. And that coat is a good 10 to 40 times thicker than what's on the cheap wire. My new bucket was electroplated, a thin flash of zinc sprayed on with electricity, cheap and fast, and there's so little of it that it wears through at the seams in a couple winters, and then the steel underneath goes. That's the whole story, and it's a story of half this list. The old way cost more and lasted. The new way cost less and don't, and they count on you not knowing the word. The hot dip coat is measured in real thickness, and it'll go 20, 50 years outdoors. The plated flash is measured in almost nothing, and it's rusting before you get it home. The failure to watch for is the seams and the scratches. On a hot dip piece, even a scratch is protected because the thick zinc all around it sacrifices to cover the bare spot. On the thin plated stuff, there's not enough zinc to reach, so a scratch is where the rust starts and it walks out from there. They still make the real thing. You want to see the words hot dip galvanized or the standard number stamped on it, A123 or A153. If it just says zinc plated, that's a flash coat. Set it back. Barnes still makes hot dip buckets and tubs the old way, and hot dipped roofing's still to be had. The tinsmith in the town below made and mended galvanized wire my whole boyhood. Gutters, buckets, roof valleys, milk cans, and knew to the year how long a coat would last. When he passed, there was nobody to take it up, and the trade that told good galvanizing from bad went with him. Now it's a word on the label most people can't read. Number 4, real gum camphor. Open an old cedar chest and there's a smell in it. Sharp, clean, cold almost. That's camphor, and it kept the moths out of the wool and the quilts for generations. And it was in half the liniments and chest rubs besides. Real camphor comes out of a tree, the camphor laurel, distilled out of the wood. What's sold now is nearly all synthetic, cooked up out of turpentine. And for keeping moths off a blanket, it works about the same. I'll not pretend there's a big difference in the chest. The difference is you can hardly find a real gum camphor block anymore. It's gone to little religious tablets and specialty sellers, where it used to be a chunk in every dry goods store. There's a plain caution on this one sentence, and then I'll leave the law out of it. The government pulled a strong camphorated oil off the market back around 1980 and capped how much camphor can go in anything you rub on, because a child that swallows it can take a seizure. So keep it up high and keep it out of reach, same as you would any medicine. The way it works on moths is, it's just a smell they can't abide. It don't kill them, it drives them off. So it only works in a shut box where the smell builds up. That's the failure people hit. They scatter a little camphor in an open closet and wonder why the moths ate the coat anyway. It has to be closed up. A cedar chest, a trunk, a garment bag, someplace the air don't move and the smell stays thick. Ma kept the winter wool in a cedar chest with gum camphor and a little cloth poke in each corner. And come fall, the sweaters come out sound, no holes, smelling of it for a week till they aired. The chest of a woman who knew what she was doing never lost a stitch of wool. You can still get the real gum camphor from the botanical sellers online, and a little goes a long way, but mind the children with it. Last 3. These are the ones that kept the weather and the years off a building. And the last one, like I told you, you flat cannot buy new. Number 3, pine tar. There's a black, sticky, sweet-smelling stuff called pine tar. Stockholm tar, the old sailors named it. And it waterproofed and preserved near everything that lived outdoors before petroleum come along. Wood, rope, roofs, the bottom of a boat, a horse's cracked hoof, and it's still in a soap that's good for bad skin. You make it by cooking pine wood, the fat, resiny stumps and roots, in a kiln with the air shut off, till the tar cooks out and runs down. It's an old, old thing. The Swedes have been making it 1,000 years, and the wooden churches over there that are still standing are the ones that got tarred every few years without fail. It was Sweden's biggest export back in the sailing days because every rope and hull in the world's navies wanted it. What killed it here was the same petroleum that killed the turpentine, cheaper black goo out of a barrel. And there's the catch you have to watch, because a lot of what's sold as pine tar now is petroleum, or coal tar, a different substance that don't do the same thing. Real pine tar is distilled out of wood, and you want the words genuine or Stockholm on it. How it works, near as they tell me, is the wood tar's full of the tree's own resins and a natural antiseptic. So it soaks into the wood and the fiber and shuts the water out and stops the rot and the fungus. Petroleum tar just sets on top and peels. The old stuff becomes part of the wood. The failure is patience and heat. You thin it with a little turpentine. the real turpentine from the first video, and you put it on thin and warm and let it soak, and it wants sun and days to cure. Slap it on cold and thick, and it stays tacky and gums up and catches every leaf that blows by. Thin, warm, and wait. The man who tarred roofs and fence posts through this county did it out of a kettle on a fire, and the smell of it carried a mile, and every young'un knew that smell meant somebody's barn was getting another 20 years. He's long gone, and the kettle with him. Genuine Scandinavian pine tar is still imported and sold. A little restoration outfit or two carries the real dark stuff, and a can of it lasts a long while. Number 2, lime mortar for an old chimney. This one has ruined more old houses than fire, and it's done by people trying to help. You've got an old chimney, or a stone foundation, or an old brick wall, and the mortar between the joints has got soft and crumbly with age, and it needs repointing. Fresh mortar worked into the joints. So a fella goes and buys a bag of modern mortar mix, the Portland cement kind, hard and gray and strong, and packs the joints with it. And he has just started killing that wall. Here's why, and this is the most important thing on this whole list if you own anything old. The mortar is supposed to be the soft part, softer than the brick, softer than the stone. It's meant to be what cracks and weathers and gets replaced every few generations. So the brick, the expensive part, the part you can't replace, never has to. Old brick and stone are soft and they breathe. They take up water and let it back out. When you point them with hard Portland cement, the cement is harder and tighter than the brick. So now the water that gets in can't get out through the joint, and it goes out through the face of the brick instead. And the first hard freeze, it spoils the face right off. The wall starts crumbling, but it's the brick crumbling now, not the mortar, and there's no fixing that. Lime mortar is the old way and the right way. It's soft, it breathes, it lets the water back out. And here's a thing that sounds like a tall tale, but it's real. Lime mortar heals its own little cracks. Rainwater dissolves a bit of the free lime, carries it into a hairline crack, and it sets back up as stone and seals it. Not a big crack, mind. It won't rebuild a joint, but the little ones, it closes up by itself. The National Park Service will tell you all of this. They wrote the book on it, because so many historic buildings got wrecked by good intentions and a bag of the wrong mortar. Paul repointed the old home chimney with lime mortar he slaked himself, and it stood 100 years and more through every freeze that came. The failure is using the strong stuff, because strong sounds better. On an old soft wall, strong is exactly wrong. You match the old mortar, soft to soft, or you break the very thing you're trying to save. Lime, and natural hydraulic lime, is sold by the restoration suppliers for this exact work. Number 1, real wrought iron. This is the one you cannot buy new at any price, and I have looked. Now hear me, because people mix this up. Wrought iron doesn't mean a fancy twisted gate. It's a material, a kind of iron they don't make anymore. Real wrought iron has threads of glassy slag worked all through it, running the length like the grain in a piece of wood, and that's what makes it what it is. It was the iron of everything that had to last and take a beating. Chains, gates, wagon tires, fences, the strap hinges on a barn door, the anchor chain on a ship, and it's gone. Not scarce, gone. The last place in the world that made wrought iron, the old puddled way, shut its doors in 1973 over in England. The American mills quit before that. It didn't stop because it was bad. It stopped because it took a mountain of hand labor, and mild steel was faster and cheaper to pour, and cheaper won, the way it always does on this list. Here's what that slag grain actually bought you, near as the Smiths explain it. Those glassy threads run through it like fibers in wood, so when it rusts along the surface and lifts instead of pitting straight down through and eating a hole. A wrought iron chain on a mountain farm would go 100 years in the weather. Mild steel in the same spot rusts through and lets go. And a chain that lets go is how somebody gets hurt. So what do you do if you want the real thing? You find old iron. That's the only wrought iron there is now. Old chain, old wagon tires, old fence, salvaged off wrecks and torn down bridges, cleaned up and re-rolled. There's one outfit over in England that does nothing but recover it and roll it out again for the smiths and the restorers. And that's a whole world's supply. And every ounce of it was made a lifetime ago and more. The blacksmith that shod horses and mended tools in this valley knew wrought iron in his hands, blindfold, knew how it worked hot, how it split along the grain, how it welded to itself in the fire the way steel won't. He could take a broke wagon tire and make it a set of hinges that'll outlast a house. That knowing died with the men who had a forge, and the material died in 1973. And between the two of them, there's a whole way of building things to last forever that we just decided to stop doing. That's the thing worth sitting with. We didn't lose it, we traded it. Every item on this list, we had the good one and we picked the cheap one. Over and over. One bucket and one brush and one rope at a time. And most of it's still out there, if you know the word to ask for and you're willing to pay what right cost. Here's my challenge. Pick one and go find the real article. Turn a bucket over at the store and read whether it says hot dipped or just zinc plated. Read the front of the neatsfoot bottle for that word compound. Or go to a farm sale and buy an Aladdin lamp for $5 and a wick to fit it and have light the next time the power's gone for a week. Then tell me in the comments, and I mean this one, what's a thing in your house that was made right and lasted? A tool, a pan, a piece of iron, and who did it come down from? And what county were they in? I want to know what's still out there working. None of this was ever about the old days being better. Half of what we had was a misery. It's that some of these things were made right and got made worse for money. And a person ought to know which is which before he lays his money down. They knew. Now it's written down.